Hey everyone, this is Cameron with Ontivity. There's a few things that always come to mind when we talk about rooftops and the different projects in which we engage in. The first is always engage and leverage that knowledge that's there on site, right? And I'm not talking about your construction manager or your project manager. What I'm talking about is the building management. Traditionally, there's going to be somebody there that has and knows everything about that property. For us, coming onto the job site the first day, a lot of times we don't have that prior knowledge. We don't have that experience. We haven't been fortunate enough to receive all of that. There's things that we have to be cognizant of, that we have to think about, that only those people probably know, or at least they're the best resources for that information. So if that information is readily available, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? There's things like rooftop anchors that you need to be thinking about. There's things such as the rooftop condition. What if you're putting up new antenna sleds or putting up a new antenna platform? You have to make sure that those rooftops have the ability to accommodate all of that additional weight and loading, and also get a better history or idea of what it is around those anchor points that are already on site. What we oftentimes find is that just because there's an anchor point on site, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's suitable for use, which is even worse because it's so convenient just to tie off to it because you have a simple ring already up there. When in reality, you have no idea when the last time that anchor was inspected. You have no idea what has been hung off of that. That could be a window washer's anchor point, or it could just be something that's just sheet metal screwed to the top of the decking. You have no idea. So I always go back and I always advocate for those guys to go, and don't be afraid to ask that building engineer, hey, what documentation do you have on this anchor? When was the last time it was inspected? Do you have it documented? The last thing you want to do is to assume that it is capable of withstanding a fall or forces that it would potentially see during a fall, all to have that anchor point fail and God forbid something bad happen. So I always ask everybody, make sure that you leverage that. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is unprotected edges. What is an unprotected edge? An unprotected edge is anything on a rooftop that is, if you think about a parapet wall, right? A parapet wall is defined by OSHA by an object or a wall that's 42 inches in height plus or minus 3 inches. So if you show up on a rooftop and has just a 6-inch wall going all the way around, that is considered an unprotected edge. And an unprotected edge means, guess what? You have to have additional fall protection because it's unprotected. Get it? So some of the things in which you can do to make sure that you get that taken care of is by understanding the different areas according to the General Industry 1910 regulations, where it talks about the walking working surfaces. Now, I kind of like to break this up into 3 different areas. You have the green zone, the area in which you can work on the roof without having any sort of controls in place. This is going to be everything that is outside of 15 feet away from the roof's edge. Now you have the middle area. Let's just say that this is the yellow area, right? This is the area that can be occupied, but you have to use some caution. That is going to be an area in which you have to utilize a warning line system. So from 6 feet to 15 feet for temporary or infrequent work, you can establish a warning line at that 6-foot mark, but know that when you come inside that 15-foot mark, that you have to start thinking about fall protection and the different protections in which you need to protect that individual from that roof edge. Now, anything from inside that 6 foot, so from say 0 feet to 6 feet, you have to have some form of fall protection. That can be a safety net system, it can be a guardrail, it can be a fall restraint system, or even a fall arrest system. Making sure that you have that is imperative. You have to do it. OSHA is stepping this up. This is something that they are looking for in the field and making sure that they're holding folks accountable. Now, this brings up a valid point. I'm working on an unprotected roof or an unprotected edge. How do I go about staying within the laws and the regulations, all while establishing a safe work environment? OSHA has what they refer to as the first man up and the last man down. So what that means is as you come up on the roof for that very first time, you have to go through and establish that warning line system. While you're establishing that warning line system, you are kind of in the gray area, if you will. You're allowed to do that, and then you establish a work process control, and then from that point on, you have to monitor that and hold folks accountable for when they approach that 15-foot mark as well as that 6-foot mark, and make sure that they're abiding by the laws and regulations. Now, there are some local municipalities and states that have their own state ran policy. They may differ a little bit from the federal regulations. So as the competent person on site, it's imperative that you do the research and that you know the area in which you're working in and those standards in which you're going to be held to. At the end of the day, OSHA is here to help us protect ourselves and protect the folks in which we work with. There's a lot of good rules out there. There's a lot of good information and resources. If you have any questions whatsoever, if it's a safety related question, reach out to Safety LMS. If it's gear related, reach out to GME. Hope you guys enjoy. Remember to be safe.